announcements none, papers none. Question.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Whether in regard to the question addressed to the Minister of National Infrastructure and Community Development, whether in regard to the proposed demolition of the Emmanuel Anquetil building, he will state A, if he is in the presence of any professional feasibility study as to the various options available, and if so, table a copy thereof. B, if the occupants will be permanently relocated in a new government building or in rented offices, and if so, the location thereof. C, the estimated cost of demolition. D, if he is in the presence of an estimated cost for the construction of a new building of similar area of 300,000 square feet, and E, the time frame envisaged.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Emmanuel Anquetil building, EAB for short, is a 10-story building in reinforced concrete constructed in 1979. The basement area comprises 2 floors, one dedicated for parking space and a lower basement to house heavy equipment such as chiller units of the central air conditioning system and other plant equipment. The building is vested in the Prime Minister's office, and my ministry has been entrusted the responsibility of its maintenance, which includes mechanical, electrical and plumbing services. The maintenance is ensured by a team of my ministry comprising officers from building section and the EST. The building is occupied by around 1,130 public officers who are posted in several ministries and departments comprising, among others, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Environment, and the Central Information System Division, the Registrar Department, and the Public Procurement Office. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part A of the question, I'm informed that in 2013, my ministry commissioned a feasibility study for the refurbishment and conversion of the Emmanuel Anquetil building into an eco-building. The assignment started in 2014, and the final report was submitted in January 2016, based on visual inspections. The consultant reported that the structural elements appeared to be in good condition. With few, the consultant also recommended that a series of destructive and non-destructive structural tests should be carried out to determine the properties of the concrete structures and the steel reinforcement, which would dictate the overall stability and durability of the building. Mr. Speaker, sir, in its report, the consultant proposed 3 possible options as follows. First, basic refurbishment. Second, full refurbishment with eco-friendly features. Third, demolition and reconstruction of a new eco-friendly building. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part B of the question, as the honourable member is aware that this is a newly announced budget measure which is still being debated, I'm informed that the Prime Minister himself will be chairing an interministerial committee to look into the different options available and decide on the best alternative to implement the proposed demolition of the EAB and the creation of a mini forest for leisure and recreational activities as part of our vision for the cultural regeneration of the city of Port Louis. The committee will also look into the relocation of all the present occupants to ensure that the exercise is undertaken in the best possible conditions. All this will be in line with the environment, economic and social resilience and traffic decongestion program. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part C of the question, the estimated cost of the demolition will be determined by reputed and experienced consultant expert in the field of demolition, which may not be available locally. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part D of the question, it would be premature at this stage to come up with an estimate for the construction of a new building. We shall await the deliberations of the Interministerial Committee, which I'm sure will take into consideration all aspects of that matter and the best interests of the present occupant and his stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to part E of the question, once again, this will also be determined by the Interministerial Committee to be chaired by the Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask the Honourable Minister, I thank him for his precise and concise answer. I ask him, this seems to be a bit of a coup d'etat. You know, this announcement has been made. There seems to be no backup report to justify the demolition. Or are you actually telling me that you have, in presence of your ministry, no report at all which says that the building is structurally unsound? Because you seem to suggest that. But are you saying that your engineers or some experts from overseas have now found that the building is structurally unsound?
Mr. Speaker, sir, if the Leader of Opposition listened to my reply well, I was pretty clear that there was a report that was commissioned, and that report suggested measures based on visual assessment. Now we have to enlist the service of a consultant for an in-depth analysis of the building. So this is what this budget is providing money for, and this is what we're going to do.
This announcement, which seems to be a bit of a coup d'etat, because if you read paragraph 175 of the budget speech, it is not a conditional announcement. It is we will do this and that by the creation of a mini forest and the pulling down of the Emmanuel Anquetil. It doesn't say considering the pulling down. So, Mr. Speaker, I would have thought that if such an announcement is made, which has created so much turmoil in Port Louis amongst 1,100 civil servants working there, that there would have been something more than just words or intentions, or if there were intentions, then it should have been on a conditional basis, this announcement.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Leader of Opposition, who has been a former Minister of Finance himself, I'm pretty surprised. In a budget speech, the Minister of Finance has announced the vision of the government. And that vision of the government, what we intend to do, is based on representation that has received from several stakeholders during the budget consultation, and that has been taken on board. And based on this, the Minister of Finance has provided money to my ministry to determine the way forward. And the way forward is, yes, we will go ahead with the mini forest, we will go ahead with the demolition of the building, but how to do it, that's the Minister of Finance who's going to tell them how to do it. That's my ministry, my engineers, my officers. With that money, we will enlist a consultant, and as I said in my reply, maybe this ability, we don't have it locally. We'll have to go on an international tender. So, now the budget is being voted, and my officers will start working on it as soon as possible.
If I understand correctly, Mr. Speaker, you as a minister have decided to destroy a building which may be perfectly sound without knowing what is the cost of demolition, without knowing what is the ecological effect in the surroundings, without knowing where to relocate the staff permanently or even temporarily, without knowing the cost of a new building. Have I succinctly summarized your attitude towards this announcement?
Mr. Speaker, sir.
You can prove me wrong. You can actually give me the figures now.
Mr. Speaker, sir, what we know is that 1,130 public officers coming from around the island, from Triolet, from Cottage, from Goodlands, are suffering in that building that date back to like 30 years now. Leakage in that building. This building has no fire certificate. There is pest and pigeon infestation. There's asbestos, presence of asbestos in that building. We have been putting money year in, year out to try to renovate. And year in, year out, we are putting million of rupees of public money in that building. And it's not coming to an acceptable level where this caring government can put his public servant to work into. So as a caring government, un gouvernement visionnaire, il y a des décisions à prendre. We refuse to keep on putting public money in a building that won't be to the standard. Certaines personnes, eux, ont quitté le bâtiment du gouvernement et sont partis se réfugier dans le New Newton Tower. Pourquoi? Parce qu'eux, ils ont besoin d'un certain confort. Non, nos fonctionnaires aussi méritent mieux de ce qu'ils sont en train d'avoir en ce moment.
I think you are probably, if you are talking about my office moving, you are probably blaming the speaker, and I don't know what he will say to you. I like to ask
We are together, don't you worry.
You know that. You know that. You know that very well. You do, eh? Yes. Very good. Very good. You know that. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask Honourable Minister whether he is aware that the asbestos are not in the walls, they are in the panels. Panels. It's partitioning. And this partitioning have, for the most part, or not for the most, but for a lot of them, of these panels, have already been replaced. Have already been replaced. And anyway, if you were to demolish the building, this you will know because you are an expert, because if you are to demolish the building, you will have to remove the asbestos panel before removing them. So, do you know, are you aware that the asbestos are in the panels, that many of these panels, if not most, have been removed anyway and replaced? Are you aware of that, Mr. Minister?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that there is still asbestos in the building. And this concern has been raised repeatedly by the trade unionists. They have raised concern about the health of the employees occupying the building. And this is exactly what the Minister of Finance did, that he listened to their qualms and have taken announced appropriate actions. Mr. Speaker, sir, and despite all necessary precautions that are being taken in that building, currently, in accordance with the occupational health, safety and health control regarding asbestos at work, we feel there is still concern for the health of the people in there.
Mr. Speaker, maybe Minister of Finance tried to play a bad joke on his colleague, but this is not a joke. This building, as you know, is a national landmark. It was designed by one of the best architects in the world, Dame Jane Drew, chosen by SSR Sir Sivasagar Ramgoolam himself after independence. This is not just any building. So, announcing and shocking Mauritius with this announcement that they are going to destroy the building on a coup d'etat, without any figures, without any plans, it's just a bad joke. Do you agree with that?
You done?
Yes. You agree?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir, we don't agree. The regeneration program of Port Louis has already started. We started with the Victoria Urban Terminal. Today, we have a brand new building that makes all of the Mauritians proud. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the same rhetoric when we engaged into renovating Victoria to make it what it is today. Immigration Urban Terminal is at its way. We have so many landmarks around Port Louis today. The Intercontinental Slavery Museum, Ministry of Finance announced the upgrading of Alépé Laval, Juma Mosque, Apravasigat. We have Chinatown. We have also, I was told, the fish market. All this are being looked into as a whole. So this is not a coup d'etat. It may seem to them, because we know they are not in power, they don't know the vision of this government, the way we have been working, the way we are working, the way we are progressing. So it seems a good tête to them, no worry, but this is a well-planned action with the series of things that are being done in Port Louis.
Since this is not a coup d'etat, I went there this morning. One firm, Rélan Ferna, is presently, as we are talking, carrying out a contract of maybe nearly 100 million rupees, completely changing the electrical system, the wires, everything inside that building. So this is not a coup d'etat. You have a vision, a vision, but you do not see in the vision that you have already spent in your vision 100 million rupees, and it's actually in the estimates. You know the estimates, huh? You know the estimates, and they are there. 31112, 433, and there are 100 million rupees this year and the forthcoming years. What sort of vision is that? Is it electrical vision?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm really shocked. Electrical shock. Mr. Speaker, sir, when the leader of the opposition is talking, I don't know if this is demagogy or what, he really thinks those 1,100 employees will leave the building on the 1st of July? They have I don't know, maybe 1, 2, 3 financial years before we construct a new building, before we move them out, and then we do whatever we want to do at this location. Meanwhile, what is he suggesting once again? That we leave those employees in the heat of Port Louis working without aircon? This is what he's suggesting? This may make him laugh, but not to me, Mr. Speaker, sir.
And I'm sure you would find a petit copain. You could have found a petit copain to rent you a building for a while, saving you 100 million rupees and netting him, this fellow, 100 million rupees in his pocket. So that's another thing. Now, I'm back to our honourable minister. We know, therefore, that in the budget speech, it's completely contradictory to the estimates, the planned expense. Completely extra. There is not only money to refurbish, 100 million rupees, which you consider to be adequate, but also not a single rupee, unless you will show me, for consulting, specialist work, and all this, that you say yourself are necessary before you actually decide on a coup d'etat or not to crash down this building with all the environment. Where is the money for the demolition? Please. And how much did you provide? At least a consultancy.
Yes, the consultancy has been provided. If you will give me 2 seconds, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll tell you what page and where it is. Maybe if I can get some help from my officers, just indicate me the page.
You should mention it.
Maintenance. No, it's there. It's there, Mr. Speaker. So I'll. Ouais, ben vous posez question là, on a la réponse. Okay. Yeah, so it's at vote item 102. You will find that. Which ministry? My ministry, National Infrastructure. Which ministry will that be?
Minister of Innovation.
22,112. That will be éclaté tout computer.
Here it is, Mr. Speaker, sir. So it's at page 350. Capital expenditure, acquisition and of non-financial assets. So there is refurbishment of Emmanuel Anquetil building. There is a provision of 40 million rupees. Well, under this vote item, but this item will be. This is consultancy fee. This is consultancy fee. If you don't want to understand, I can't do much.
Don't joke on PNQ. Don't joke. There's no money for demolition. You have just proved it. There's only
You've just said there's no money for demolition. There's money for consultancy.
Let me go back again, Mr. Speaker. I can't see. Let me go back, Mr. Speaker, to this 2016 report, which is quite recent. Now, you may know what the 2016 report says. It says that, in fact, the figures will change now, but the percentages probably will remain the same.
Percentages of
yes, percentages. Just bear with me. Be patient. So the cost of basic refurbishment, renovation, is about half to a third of the actual cost of a new building. It depends, of course. It tells you whether you want a super comfortable building or you want a basic building that you can use for a lot of other things. You know that. So this is why, of course, it begs the question, on what basis the ministry decided to go for demolition and construction somewhere else, whereas the report, the only report, I am myself, so I thought he was going to give me another report. The only report that exists in 2016 gives you the cost of 380 million rupees for basic refurbishment. With inflation, it's much more now, and 2 or 3 times the cost for reconstruction. You are aware of that?
What's the question?
What you don't understand? My question, you don't understand?
My
My question is whether you are aware that it is much more expensive and not recommended at all by the foreigners and Mauritians who came to study the refurbishment, renovation, or demolition and reconstruction. You are aware of that?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir, once again, this report, the consultant said that it's based on, once again, visual inspection only, and recommended 3 options. So now the report doesn't say whether it's viable or not. The report says go and hire a structural engineer who will tell you with destructive method of destructive and non-destructive structural tests to determine if that hasn't been done. So how can I reply to what the leader of the opposition is saying? And that's not me saying. The report is saying this. We are going by the report of a professional.
We are several ministers of finance in this room. We all know that the budget is approved by cabinet. It's a cabinet document. It's a cabinet decision. It's not a game. It's not a game, a budget announcement, a budget speech. I don't know. So you announce there that you will demolish a building without having done any structural work at all to find out whether the building is sound or not. Okay, I've got that. I think the public have also got this point. I'd like to ask you this question, whether, having read, I'm sure you've read it completely, the report of 2016. You've read that report, and you know, I presume, that the cost of renovation, basic cost, is 380 million rupees in those prices, with that US dollar rate. And that the cost of renovation, reconstruction, including the cost of demolition, could rise to 1.5 billion. So it's a big difference, Mr. Minister, Honorable Minister. It's a big difference, and I think the public is waiting for your reply here. You're not just going to look at me.
Once again, yes, this is what the report says, but we are not there yet. Let the structural engineers tell us what to do and how to do, and then the government will take the decisions that we need to take.
I don't know what to say. I'm lost, Mr. Speaker. Now, let me go now. I am lost because I never expected so much amateurism. Really, huh? I didn't expect.
No, but
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Leader of the
it's not a good word.
It's not a parliamentary word. Please. Don't discuss with the chair. The chair is not you and me. The government is you and me. Yeah, the government is you and me. You see? So, withdraw that word, amateurism or whatever. You can't say that to a minister. You can't say that.
I think and I maintain that it is not serious. The Speaker thinks otherwise. Good for him.
No,
Mr.
It's
Speaker,
not a question.
you think
don't
otherwise?
comment.
Good for you. What can I say?
You don't comment upon my ruling. My
Okay.
ruling is clear.
It's clear. Okay.
There are words that can be used in Parliament. There are words that can't be used. Whether it pleases you or not, you have to obey the rule of the Speaker.
I'll ask this question now. There have been a decision now to have a mini forest. You know what mini forest looks like? It's a real mess, huh? A mini forest. You go and have a look at the mini forest at the cathedral. It's not a pleasant sight, a mini forest. It really is la forêt à brousse. Huh? That's what it is. Okay? That's what it is. A mini forest is rewilding. When you're returning a piece of land to the wild. It's not usually a pleasant sight. It's like any terrain en brousse that you will find in Caterbone or elsewhere. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister, he knows full well that Cathedral Gardens are not even a minute's walk from Emmanuel Anquetil. Jardin de la Compagnie is not far either. And Champ-de-Mars, there it's becoming into a dump. So much wild and uncontrolled construction.
Now you're making a speech about Champ-de-Mars. Listen, let me remind you of your own question. Whether in regard to the proposed demolition of Emmanuel Anquetil building, he will say X, Y, Z. Now you reach Champ-de-Mars being a dump. Well, what are you talking about? Time is almost over. I'm reminding you.
It is not good for your health.
I'm not excited.
Don't get excited.
But
now,
get your question
the question
properly.
is, these three sites being next to each other and in very small distance from the mini forest that you are planning at huge cost, don't you think it would be better for everyone for you to invest in Jardin de la Compagnie, help with Cathedral Gardens, and Champ-de-Mars, make these wonderful places we can all go on an afternoon and sit in the shade?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the only thing that comes to my mind, yes, human beings are resistant to change, and so is the leader of opposition. So what we are trying to do in Mauritius, in Port Louis, exists in all big cities around the world, where they've maybe gone a step further by preventing vehicles from coming in, from making it pedestrian, where there are attractions, there are tourist attractions coming in with the harbor few meters away, and those croisières coming in will provide places for the Mauritian public to go walk and have fresh air. Today, when we are talking about carbon footprint, today when we are talking about climate change, I think the more we have, the merrier it's gonna be, which is, I think, it's hard to understand for some.
You said nearly over. It's not over yet?
No. 2 minutes.
Are you putting question to me now?
Nearly over.
I told you I'm not you and me. The government is you and me, Shadow Prime
Mr.
Minister.
Speaker,
Shadow Prime Minister, you're in a haste.
you may be our opponent. The government is also our opponent. We have no enemies, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I couldn't understand what you said.
No, never mind. It's okay. Mr. Speaker, so my last question is this. Given that it had been announced on a coup d'etat, given that the minister has not been able to produce even half a paragraph to justify what he has announced, whether he will rectify the situation. He talked yesterday, and I don't think he mentioned anything on this issue. So he will rectify and let the people know that this was announced as if un peu d'une façon désinvolte, and that he will now do all this and come with a final decision after the project plans committee, etc., has looked at it. That's my question.
No, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think for this government, the welfare of our functionaries is equally important. We also looking into their well-being. They also deserve decent working place. This is what the interministerial committee chaired by the Prime Minister will look into, and this will allow us to liberate some space in Port Louis et faire pour lui respirer encore une fois. Merci.
Time over.
Motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Nobody seconding the motion? The question is that all the business on today's order paper is exempted from the provisions of paragraph 16 order 10. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. The ayes have it.
Statements by ministers none. Public bill second reading.
Public bill.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for giving me the opportunity to intervene on the budget speech. First, I wish to congratulate my colleague, Honorable Payadachi, for coming forward with such a commendable budget. I know it has not been an easy task to reconcile both our social and economic objectives, given the unstable economic environment prevailing around the world. We are all aware of the unprecedented situation regarding the world economy, especially with the COVID-19 and, unfortunately, the war in Ukraine, which is still impacting on the price of commodities globally. Since the last general election, this government has presented 3 budgets, and this 4th budget is in line with the same philosophy. That is, continuing investment, creating growth, and help the vulnerable group of the society. In my budget speech of last year, I highlighted the fact that the Minister of Finance is trying to kickstart the economy by giving an exceptional boost to the economy, shaping a new economic architecture, and restoring confidence. Today, Mr. Speaker, sir, the economic indicators are proving us right. Just to name some figures. In 2022, the Mauritian economy grew at its fastest pace in over 35 years, 8.7% compared to the initial forecast of 7.2%. Our GDP exceeded early estimates by 26 billion to reach 570 billion. Foreign direct investment totaled 27 billion, that is 50% higher than in 2021. Total investment exceeded expectation by 10 billion rupees to reach 113 billion rupees. That is a 20% increase compared to 2021. Exports of goods and services amounted to 320 billion, representing an increase of 40 billion over early estimates and a surge of 110 billion compared to 2021. Government debt. Firstly, unemployment rate declined from 9.1% in 2021 to 7.7% in 2022. Government debt was lower by 7.2% point to 68.7%. And according to the IMF World Economic Outlook in April 2023, Mauritius was amongst the 20 fastest growing economies in the world last year, Mr. Speaker. And what's important, I think, what is more important, I think, the population as a whole has welcomed this budget. Naturally, except, as expected, some members of the opposition. Comme d'habitude, they have been negative, as usual. This negativity and this attitude of n'en pas bon, you would agree, Mr. Speaker, is in their DNA. The reality is that l'opposition n'est pas capable de dire qu'une majorité de la population est satisfaite avec ce budget-là. L'opposition n'est pas capable de dire ça. This budget provides and buffet d'air free for the population, especially those on the lower rung of the ladder. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to respond to some of the negative comments before coming to the essence of the budget and on my ministry. For example, The leader of the opposition has qualified this budget as caring for the rich by daring to take from the poor. I wish to draw the attention of the leader of the opposition that everyone is going to benefit more from the many social measures mentioned in this budget, and most importantly, those from the lower income group. This will increase their purchasing power and hence enable them to enjoy a better standard of living. Honorable Béranger has claimed that Chicapa fair, please. Here I wish to point out that if we had more means, certainly we would have done more, as we have always been a government that cares for the betterment of this population. That is the reason why we are here and will still be here after the next election. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you allow me, I'm just going to answer, I think, the Honorable Shakil Mohammed. Yesterday, during his speech, he was talking about constituency number 3. Plein vert, sport infrastructures in constituency number 3, Plein vert, Candidof and Rochebois, are under renovation years after years. Well, I'm happy they are being renovated, Mr. Speaker, sir. If they were destroyed and not being renovated, I would have been unhappy. But the fact that they are being renovated, that in itself, that they are being appreciated by the public, they are being used by the public, and by normal wear and tear, naturally they need renovation. So what's the problem with that? I can't understand. Then he came to Estad Kaya. There's a lot of problem at Estad Kaya, people are complaining. Mr. Speaker, sir, I had a project together with the municipality of Port Louis to renew Estad Kaya that was last year. We reopened the stadium last year. You know what it was, Mr. Speaker, the cloakroom at Estad Kaya? It was a den for drug addicts and prostitutes. That's what it was. That's what it was, the cloakroom of Estad Kaya. We went there, cleaned everything, and refurbished the whole place, and the stadium as well. And now the young people are enjoying Estad Kaya. And he's not happy with that. The fact that we have removed the drug addict, we have removed the prostitute, he's not happy with that. And no, that's not finished. And in the program of the municipality of Port Louis, we are going to have an irrigation system for Estad Kaya to make it better. Because we know it's very hot in Port Louis, and we have to do this system. So we are going to work on that. And then he came about Prispeed. About 6 months ago, I inaugurated a scientific pitch at Prispeed. C'était mon projet. My goodness. You were there for about 10 years. You have not done anything. When we came, we've done it, c'était mon projet. I mean, what do you do to that? I don't know, I don't understand this kind of logic, this kind of people. And then Estad Mamnad Elahi. There is no water in the toilet. I think he's got a fixation with the toilet. Was he thirsty encore? Est-ce qu'il se soif encore? I don't understand. Centre 1er février à Rochebois. It's leaking. This has been repaired a long time ago. The flooring has been done, Mr. Speaker. I don't know in what age he's living. And Sant Goumani as well. I mean, he's complaining about Sant Goumani. But I think about a week ago, he asked permission from the Municipal Council of Port Louis to go and have his congrès dans Sant Goumani. And he's complaining about the Sant Goumani. Everybody in Plein Vert, I can assure you, in surrounding areas, are appreciating what we have done to this Sant. What a mess it was before, and what we have done. And I can tell you, now the booking for Sant Goumani, now this Sant is booked till the end of the year and maybe beginning of the new year as well. And he's complaining about this center. Just goes to show. And again, near the Sant Goumani, we are building the sports center. He's saying that I have destroyed the children's playground for my ego. Mr. Speaker, sir, if I have removed the children's playground there, I have transferred it to where the kiosk is. But sometimes I suppose ignorance is bliss. He should have known better, but I suppose some people live in like that. What I've done, I've moved the children's playground to where the kiosk is, and then we are going to build a new sports center. You know, Mr. Speaker, I've known Plainvert. I was born in Plainvert. I grew up in Plainvert. I know the problem of Plainvert. I was a municipal councillor for Plainvert, and I'm an MP for Plainvert. So I know the problem of Plainvert. These people cannot teach me what needs to be done from Plainvert. Talking about ego, he said, I moved this playground for my own ego. But you would agree, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wonder who has a hyper-inflated ego. Is it me or the honourable member? I'll leave that with the member of the House and the public to decide. And yesterday, Honourable Juman, gouvernement inoublié numéro 3. Well, let me remind him as well. Gouvernement oublié numéro 3. But gouvernement in dépense 130 millions pour faire the water system à la Plainvert et 133 millions pareil à Rochebois. Appelez oublier ça. And this work was done because the last time this work was done was 50 years ago, Mr. Speaker, sir. This government, when we came, 130 millions à la Plainvert, 130 millions à Rochebois. On a oublié Plainvert, on a oublié numéro 3. Centrée, it is money I've just mentioned. 50 million rupees already open. We have done 2 other municipal centres, La Route Militaire and Canal Bache Street. Plainvert Sport Arena, which we are doing now, that's going to cost 150 million rupees. The work has started, and maybe in about 9 months the work is going to be completed. Is that what you mean we have to neglect Plainvert? A new area health center is coming, is going to be opened by the Minister of Health in a few months' time. Second opinion, neglect Plainvert. Apart from that, there was another area health centers for Rochebois as well. But because the contractor was not doing the work properly, the Minister of Health has changed the contractor. We are going to put a new contractor to get the work done. And does that mean the work is not being done in Plainvert and in Rochebois? Kanyolov, we have work are being done as well there in the community center. And just to tell him as well, because sometimes he would say he won't know about it, at Renaissance Center, we are going to have another multi-purpose hall there at the tune about 20 to about 35 million rupees. And the centre BAT, which has been there, I think, for about 20 years, il est dépassé maintenant. So we are going to have an extension of centre BAT. Does that mean that we are neglecting Plainvert? Coming to Rochebois, recently, the Minister of Public Infrastructure, he inaugurated the KD roundabout, the structure that had been done as a roundabout. At the same time, they have just done an overhead pedestrian crossing for the inhabitant of Rochebois to connect Colchester to the other side of the motorway. You know, Mr. Speaker, the inhabitant has been asking for this pedestrian crossing for about 15 years. And what did the Honourable Shakil Mohammed, has he done anything for the last 15 years? Nothing. Because on that stretch of motorway, just to give you an idea, Mr. Speaker, sir, you have about 6,000 vehicles which cross that motorway every hour. How can you expect mothers and children to walk across that motorway to go to the other side, to take a bus to go to school in the morning and to return home in the afternoon? How? How can you expect people to do that? He didn't do anything. And we have done it a few months ago. I think it's operational, a couple of weeks ago, I think. Yeah. And that he's complaining we are not doing anything. And in Colchester as well. Colchester is one of the poorest places. In Rochebois is, there needs a lot of work need to be done. And Colchester is a part of Rochebois, and it's much worse. It's a worse area in Rochebois, if you can say that, Mr. Speaker. And now, about a month ago, the Minister of Housing and Land has given us 1 acre of land in Colchester to do a municipal center, to do a synthetic pitch for the young, the des enfants, a pétanque pitch. About a month ago, we have got the land. And now we are going to build to make this project. And we are not doing anything about in Breton. And yesterday, the Honorable Esan Juman said that for the 400 houses we are going to do, pe néglige plein verte, inoublié plein verte. We are not going to do it in plein verte. We are going to do it outside plein verte. We are going to do about 200 in Bâtiment and 200 at Arsenal, 200 houses. He wants the houses to be done in plein verte. But as we all know, plein verte is one of the smallest constituencies in terms of area, surface area. Where do we have land to do housing? 200 housing. Now, with 200 housing, which means you're going to have multiplied by 4 at least, you're going to have, imagine, about 1,000 people. It's so overcrowded, plein verte. You want to put more people in plein verte? Or do you want to put in a place where it's going to be better for them? L'environnement là is going to be better and everything. I would ask him to discuss with his colleague who is sitting next to him, Nando Beda. Nando Beda is an urbanist. Ask him whether it is good to put so many people together in the same place. Ask any sociologists, ask any psychologists. They would tell you if you overcrowd a place, you're going sooner or later, you're going to get more social problems. But he can't seem to understand. He wants to put it in plein verte. Never mind what's going to happen in the future. No, never mind. Tomorrow we are going to have a problem. Never mind. But he wants to put the housing in plein verte. And the government, apart from plein verte, we are going to put 200 houses in Bâtiment as well. And he said, well, what did he say about for Rochebois? Why are putting them in Bâtiment? We should have removed the Mauritius Meat Authority and put it where the Mauritius Meat Authority is. Mr. Speaker, sir, the inhabitants of Rochebois, they are complaining about the rubbish dump that we have in Rochebois. It's affecting their health. Is it wise to put 200 houses where the MMA is now, which is near the rubbish dump? Is that what you want? Is that the kind of project you want to bring to Rochebois? The inhabitants of Rochebois, don't they deserve a better lot than this? To be placed near the rubbish dump? I can't understand this kind of logic from these people sometimes, Mr. Speaker. Next, he was criticizing me about Kurmani. And together with Honorable Amir, together with Honorable Amir, and Mr. Honorable Yutim mentioned it as well. Mr. Speaker, sir, since we came here, this government came, we have been trying to improve the situation. Because we know we have, as far as importation of cattle is concerned, we have a monopolistic situation in Mauritius. And when we have this kind of situation, it's difficult to control the price. Since we came in late 2014, that is 2015, when we started working on that, we have been trying to see how we can decrease the price. I'll just give you an idea, Mr. Speaker. 2014, when the Labour Party was here, the price of cattle per kg was 139 rupees 50. And when we came in 2015, we negotiated with the importers. It was 125 rupees. Came down. The next year, there was no COVID, nothing in 2014. The price was 139. 1 year later, when we negotiated with them, it came down to 125. 2016, 129. 2017, 135. 2018, 134. 2019, 132. 2020, 136. All the time below the 2014 figure. That's what we have been doing. And he said we are not doing anything. The price went up for 2021 and 2022 because of COVID and the increase in freight. And he said we are not doing anything. And apart from this, the government decided that we are going to import cattle. It's not just cattle for Eid al-Adha, but also goat and sheep for the festive season at the end of the year. We were working on this, Mr. Speaker, sir. Okay, I know I said we are going to import it for this, for the Eid al-Adha, which is coming in about a couple of weeks, and we didn't manage to make it. Because with time constraint, we did not manage it. Why? Wow. We have failed, we have done this, we have done that, but we have been working. Since we came here, we have been working to control the price. Okay, it didn't work this time, but we'll continue to work. We'll continue to work because the government and that's why the government has, in the annex is mentioned, we have changed the regulation for MMA to import cattle and sheep and goat and all that. That's why the government is coming to that, so that we can give a better deal to these people. We don't want these people to be fleeced each and every year by some importers. That's how it is, the situation, Mr. Speaker, now. The government realized it. We have been working on it. Okay, I agree. We didn't manage this year. But as we say, inshallah, next year we'll do it. And they are criticizing me for that. When they were here, they did not do anything. Labour, I've just given the figure. The Labour Party did not do anything about the price. Adil Amir criticized me. What has he done for the last 15 years? He's been a member of this assembly. Nothing. Just post question, nothing at all, nothing in the constituency. Not one project in the constituency, but criticizing. Good at criticizing. Pan block lipan meti paula. You know, just criticize. That's what they are good at. But I don't give a damn about that, sorry. I don't care about that. But I mean, you have missed a bit of sense. For 15 years, you have done nothing. And you have the gut to criticize us. Shakil Mohammed was criticizing me again about the garden. Killing fair push out the plan wert. Killing fair, Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, sir, in point decano il made done orders. That's all. That's all he's done. And criticizing me. And now we have got, in this budget, it's mentioned now, we have got money to revamp the plan wert again. In this budget, it's mentioned. And he has the gut to come and criticize us. You know, it's so easy to criticize. It just comes just like that. That's it. And just criticize and just barge away. It just goes away. No, but we don't have any lesson to hear from these people. We don't have any lesson to take from these people, Mr. Speaker, sir. After a few words, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me to come back to my budget speech. As I mentioned earlier, some members of the opposition cannot digest that despite all the economic difficulties that we are facing, the Minister of Finance has been able to craft a budget that takes into consideration the needs of all the population. As we are all aware, the main issues that's affecting the population at present is rising cost of living. We are all aware of that. We know that. Obviously, we as a caring government are very much concerned about this issue. The population is suffering from these two disastrous events, from the COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine. And we all know how the cost of living has gone up, affecting the purchasing power of everybody. be it a member of the vulnerable group of society or even members of the middle class as well. This government is investing around 4.3 billion rupees to sustain the purchasing power of more than 350,000 individuals, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, this government cares, whatever the opposition think. We have done it before, we are doing it now, and we'll continue to care. Despite the fact that we face the worst crisis of our economic history, the Minister of Finance has dared to come with measures to alleviate the financial situation of all the categories of the population. The panoply of measures is unprecedented. There are so many measures in this budget that it's difficult to enumerate all of them. The Minister of Finance has taken full 2 hours to enumerate them. Obviously, I won't go through them line by line again, because each budgetary item has been crafted to help to ease the financial burden of the Mauritian population, Mr. Speaker. This is being done for the different age group. Firstly, the babies and children up to 3 years are being given a monthly child support of 2,000 rupees. We appreciate it's difficult when a mother has small children. You have a lot of extra additional expenses. That's why the Minister of Finance has come with this. Same for the young people. They're getting 20,000 as soon as they reach 18. Has that ever been done, Mr. Speaker, a measure like that? Never. Mr. Speaker, sir, despite all the criticisms that we have heard in this House, it is an encouragement and a step in the right direction for these young people. This is an unprecedented measure, as I mentioned. And I'm confident in the future, as the situation improves further, this government is going to do much more for our youth. Government is maintaining the CHG allowance. Working families with an income of 25,000 to 50,000 monthly will be paid an allowance of 1,000 monthly, while those earning 25,000 and less will be paid an allowance of 2,000 monthly. Moreover, this budget has made sure that no individual with a full-time employment will receive a revenue less than 15,000. And we came with a minimum wage recently, a couple of years ago, before we knew what some people were earning per month, 1,500 per month. Some women cleaners were getting 2,000, 2,500. Now the minimum would be 15,000 within what, 6, 7 years? More than 10 times, nearly 10 times. The salary of those getting 12,000 will now be topped by the government, so that the minimum income for anybody working full-time will be 15,000. The personal income tax has been reformed to provide additional income to the families. This will also be an incentive to attract young Mauritians who are studying abroad and foreign talent, because let's face it, without them, we will not be able to sustain high level of growth and develop new economic sectors. We on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have no qualm. We support this budget completely, whatever l'état d'âme de l'opposition. Deep down in our heart, we know that the measures announced in this budget are going to ease the financial burden of the population, and we gladly support the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister in this endeavor. Mr. Speaker, I'll just now mention a few words about the National Disaster and Risk Management Center. In the World Risk Report, I'm going to mention the ranking of Mauritius in the World Risk Report. Now, by the way, if you are ranked the first, it is a worst ranking. I just want everybody to understand that. If you're first, you're worst ranking. In 2014, we were 14th. 2019, 47th. 2021, 51. And 2022, 107 out of 193 countries. As you see, the risk to disasters are improving in Mauritius. As I've given you, this is a World Risk Report Index. I've taken it from 2014 to 2022. Obviously, climate change is exacerbating the extreme weather event, and the past summer, 2022-2023, observed 6 out of the 8 storms reaching tropical cyclone or higher intensity. One of the worst ones was Cyclone Freddy, which was a Category 5, Mr. Speaker, Category 5 cyclone. We know how long it stays in the Southeast Indian Ocean basin. And we know what kind of damage it did in Madagascar, Mozambique, and Tanzania. We were lucky it didn't come directly toward Mauritius. If not, the situation would have been catastrophic, Mr. Speaker. Sir. But in the future, we should be ready for this kind of Category 5 cyclone. That's why the MMS, the National Disaster Center, Mauritius Fire and Rescue Service, and the local authorities are working together, trying to mitigate the effect of these adverse weather conditions. Thus, the National Disaster Risk Management Center has already completed the phase 1 of the national project for National Multi-Hazard Emergency Alert System. The implementation of the second phase of this alert system, namely the Cell Broadcast Center, is being envisaged in the coming financial year. The Cell Broadcast Center will allow for the sending of messages to all smartphones within chosen geographical areas. And here's very important, geographical areas, because now we know that with flash flood, sometimes it doesn't affect the island at one go. It can be in the north, in the south, in the central plateau, in the west. It is very regional nowadays. That's why we have developed this cell broadcast so that we can send the message to specific geographical centers. Upon completion, the whole population will be able to get emergency alert wherever they are in Mauritius. As far as the MMS is concerned, they are procuring the Synergy Web. This is a modern web-based forecasting meteorological information system, compliant with international requirements. This system has been proven in many countries and will optimize the use of Transmet system. Additionally, the MMS would be upgrading its IT network infrastructure for better communication and optimum use of the new servers that have been received within the CLIMSA project, namely one server for climate action and one server to integrate early warning system. The MMS will be procuring other servers to run a high-resolution limited area model. That's a very important one, Mr. Speaker, for Mauritius, so that you can get detailed information. Because when we get information overseas sometime, it is for a bigger area. But we want to get Mauritius being a small place, we have to get more kind of detailed information. And that's where the high-resolution limited area model for Mauritius and the South Island is coming. This will enhance the capability of the Mauritius Meteorological Service to provide accurate forecasts in a timely manner and also to develop an operational flood model. The MMS would also be upgrading the storm surges model for better forecasting of incoming heavy swells and storm surges during passage of cyclone. In the next financial year, the MMS is planning to construct a new headquarters at Vakwa to have adequate space to accommodate all the new equipment and to improve the service as well. In collaboration with Rorick Regional Assembly, MMS is procuring 2 automated weather stations and were installed at Chons and Rivière Banane. A wave rider was also procured and installed at Port Sud-Est. This wave rider is providing real-time observation on the wave height, direction of wave and swells, and the temperature of sea surface. As for the Mauritius Fire and Rescue Service, Mr. Speaker, sir, currently we are operating 11 fire stations throughout the island, namely at Port Louis, Triolet, Piton, Coromandel, Quatre-Bornes, Tamarin, Kerpip, Mayberg, Rochebelle, Flac, and Saint-Aubert. The Mauritius Fire and Rescue Services has already embarked on the construction of 2 new fire stations at Goodlands and Montagne Blanche. Action is also being taken for the relocation of the Quatre-Bornes Fire Station and the construction of the headquarters of the Mauritius Fire and Rescue Service on a plot of land already acquired at Chilip Avenue, Quatre-Bornes. Fire and other natural-related disasters incidents are increasing every year, as we know. The response time to attend to an incident is at present 9 minutes by the Mauritius Fire and Rescue Service. But with a view of achieving a response time of 5 minutes, and now this is a gold standard. I'm not pretending, I'm not saying that tomorrow we are going to reach 5 minutes. But we have to work in this direction. Now it takes 5 minutes for the fire to reach the place where you have an incident, but now we are trying to improve the time. To attend to these, so that we can attend to these emergencies quicker, the government is coming with satellite fire stations all around the island. And this will be constructed in order to provide, as I mentioned, efficient service to the community. Because now, because the work that the fire service has to do, Mr. Speaker, is not only extinguishing fire, because now they have to take care about flash flood and all type of flooding, which are more common in Mauritius. So that's why they have to be near the habitation area, and they have to respond very quickly. That's why we are working on the satellite fire station. We have already worked on it. This is going to be different from the ordinary fire station, as the satellite fire station will be equipped with 2 bays and 1 water tender. We have already identified 16 locations for these 16 satellite stations. And provision in this budget has been made for 8. And there would be 8 satellite stations in this first year. At La Golette, Semé-Grenier, Bambou-Vieilleux, Bel-Air, Saint-Pierre, Bambou, Grand-Bois, and L'Escadier. Mr. Speaker, this is an unprecedented measure, Mr. Speaker, sir. 8 satellite fire stations in 1 year, in the budget in 1 year. Okay, it's going to take us time. We have to find the land, we have to get to work on the project and everything. It's going to take a bit of time. But the decision has been taken, Mr. Speaker, sir. This has never been done before. We realize that with the frequent occurring of flash flood, as I mentioned, the fire service should be nearer to the different towns and villages to provide a prompt service. Mr. Speaker, the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Center is playing a very important role in coordinating the management of the different types of disaster that we are facing. I have been to the New York personally during the flash flood and cyclones, and I can vouch for their efficiency and their professionalism. This service is providing on a 24 hours basis whenever we have a disaster and whenever a disaster is declared. Allow me to mention another initiative which will be the first of its kind, Mr. Speaker, sir. From the 19th to the 23rd of June 2023, that is in a couple of weeks, Mauritius is going to organize a mass casualty evacuation at sea. We have never done that, Mr. Speaker. If tomorrow we have a major incident happening on, I don't know, a cruise ship or whatever, in our economic zone, how do we cope? We have never had any exercise. This is the first time we are going to do such an exercise. This unique workshop and exercise will be organized by the Prime Minister's Office in collaboration with the National Disaster Center and other agencies. The objective of the workshop is to formulate and implement a mass evacuation plan, as I mentioned, in our economic zone. This workshop will be conducted by a team of United States trainers whereby a tabletop simulation exercise will be carried out initially, and this will be followed by a simulation exercise of the actual physical evacuation at sea. It won't be just a tabletop exercise, but actually an actual exercise at sea. It will be carried out from a casualty site near the port area. This will be a good opportunity for us to test the National Maritime Search and Rescue Plan, Mr. Speaker. This will allow us to test our capabilities and also to identify our shortcomings. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to say now to highlight the main achievement in my ministry, the Ministry of Local Government. It is an undeniable fact that we have achieved much more in terms of capital projects. At the level of the local authorities, we have implemented around 3,000 projects between 2015 and 2022 for a total amount of 5 billion rupees. As I speak, we have 1,204 projects in the pipeline, and the implementation estimated in the pipeline and the implementation estimated at 3 million rupees. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me just to cite just a few examples of the major capital projects that we have completed so far, or reaching completion. We have completed the construction of the headquarters of District Council of Pamplemousse and Flac. As you know, they were separated in 2011, but no provision was made at that time. We have completed these two projects. And now, hopefully someone will be completed by later this year or early next year. New market fair at Goodland and Chemigrenier and Bel Air are nearing completion. Upgrading and renovation of multi-purpose complex at Gomani, I've just mentioned it before. We have completed the renovation of the town hall of Kuapip. We all know in what state that building was. We all know. And now it's a real jewel in the town of Kuapip, Mr. Speaker, sir. To support our youth, we have implemented several mini soccer pitches throughout the island, and many more would be implemented in the next financial year, for which funds have been provided. We have already started on construction of a sport arena in Plainvert, as I mentioned earlier. Similarly, we have other gymnasia which would be constructed, namely at Stanley, Saint Felix, whereas at Coram is being presently renovated and would be completed by September 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, to improve the day-to-day living condition of our countrymen, we have initiated many small community development projects, which are being financed under the Indian grant assistance to the tune of 250 million rupees. All these projects will be implemented in the financial year 2023-2024 across the island. The implementation of the Metro Express has given rise to opportunities for the redevelopment of strategically located areas around our cities and towns into modern urban terminals. Besides the Victoria Urban Terminal, 5 modern urban terminals would be developed through private sector participation along the metro corridors from Port Louis to Kuapip. As we all know, the Victoria Urban Terminal is already in operation. As regards Vacua and Cardboard Urban Terminal, the request for proposal document has already been launched, and the RFP document for the Kuapip Urban Terminal is under preparation. With respect to Rosehill Urban Terminal, the Ministry of Housing and Land Use Permit is currently looking into the possibility of acquiring additional plot of land in order to make that project a much better project still. And for immigration, I'm afraid, I know we are a bit late, but we are waiting for UNESCO. We can't start that project. We've got a contractor, we've got a promoter, but unfortunately we have to wait to get the okay from UNESCO, then we can proceed with the project. To decrease our carbon footprint, solar-powered street lighting will be installed across the island to replace LED and other lighting. The Municipal Council of Catremont has already completed the installation of solar voltaic system on its administrative building, and presently it is autonomous in terms of electricity production and consumption. The Municipal Council of Port Louis is going to install new solar voltaic panel at its headquarters. Mr. Speaker, similarly, we have many other green projects. For instance, we are completing the Promenade Forecourt at Quatre-Bornes. Another project which I mentioned earlier is a rejuvenation of Plaine Verte Garden, which will be implemented in this coming financial year. The main objective of this project will be that of using all the means to make a zero energy and zero carbon green sustainable park. This will also contribute to the health and wellness of our citizens and converting this place into a safer, hopefully, into a safer and healthier place for our children and youth. As promised, the municipal tax on primary residence has been abolished with effect from the 1st of July 2022. This has benefited around 150,000 households at a cost of 184 million rupees annually to the government. I wish also to highlight that the exemption of municipal tax on family home regulation 2022 was promulgated on the 27th of October 2023. As announced in the budget, during the next financial year, all religious institutions in the municipal area will also be exempted from the payment of municipal tax, since we, as a government, we strongly believe that everyone should be given all the facilities required to practice their religion and culture. With a view to modernize the service of the local authorities, my ministry, we have been working on that for some time, but the project is continuing. I'm just mentioning it. My ministry has embarked and is continuing the project of an array of digitalization projects and technological innovation. The iCouncil project management software was developed by the Council to organize and supervise implementation of the project being implemented at all levels. Now, about drain construction, Mr. Speaker. In this financial year, various of looking after children suffering from diabetes when I was working at G2 Hospital. Childhood diabetes is different from adult diabetes, Mr. Speaker. Depending on their condition, these children need blood tests and insulin injection about 2 or 3 times every day. You can imagine, Mr. Speaker, how traumatic it is for a child to have so many injections, so many needles every day. And that's lifelong. That's lifelong, Mr. Speaker. And they have to inject themselves sometimes in the tummy, or in the thigh, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times, depending on the condition. Similarly, when anybody is diagnosed with suffering from cancer, you can imagine how it's difficult for that particular patient. I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, when a child is diagnosed with cancer, it's much worse. Ça peut être, comme on dit, abasourdi. It's like a roof falling over their head when a child suffers from cancer. They're completely lost, doesn't know where to start, what to do. Is a treatment available? Is a child that we love so much are going to die? Is that the kind of question that goes through their mind? Do they have the money to pay for the treatment? Sometimes, as you know, Mr. Speaker, when they go overseas for the initial treatment, after a few months, they have to go again for follow-up. Fairly frequently, they run out of money. And so many times, we have seen that these people are asking for donation in the newspapers. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's very difficult for these parents, and I welcome the measures taken by the Minister of Finance to help these children in distress. Honorable Mr. Padachi, my colleague, in the name of these children, I would like to thank you personally for this humane approach towards this unfortunate children. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, despite the difficult economic situation globally, in the 2 previous budgets, the government managed to ease the financial situation of the population to some degree. We realize the increasing cost of living is impacting negatively on the purchasing power of the population. In this budget, the government came with a raft of measures to improve the economic condition of the population across the board. The Minister of Finance has been successful in this exercise and has provided a master stroke which nobody expected. I would like to end on this note, Mr. Speaker. The Gini coefficient, which measures the income inequality between rich and poor. The ideal outcome for the Gini coefficient is 1.0. In 2010, it was 4.1, and now it is 3.1, Mr. Speaker, and that speaks for itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The members will now suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.